I'm an Afro-optimist, so I choose to focus on the positive things, but I also choose to focus on the wars. If people say, wars? I say, yes, there's massive wars in this continent. There's a war between Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, and Gambia as to who makes the best jollof.
From the pyramids of Giza to the spectacular beaches of Zanzibar, Africa houses 54 recognized countries and stands as the second largest continent, both in terms of population and landmass. Now, brand expert and Afro-optimist Thebe Ikalafeng has visited all of these African countries and takes the message of our wonderful culture and diversity with him everywhere he goes. Thebe, who's worked with some of the most reputable and long-standing brands like Nike Africa, Mercantile Bank, and Brand South Africa, says that contributed to his decision to explore the continent.
It's a beautiful continent. Our continent is amazing. You choose what you see in the countries. I choose to see the beauty of the country. And people like to ask me which is my favorite. There is none. All of them are great. Maybe which left a great impression on me. I think that's probably better because when I arrived in Liberia, obviously post what it's been through, post the Salif Johnson era, I arrived in Liberia. I was deeply moved by the country because I went to the church where the slaves came back after slavery, when they returned from America and declared their independence in 1847. And I went to the church and the sermons and the story, and I could relate a bit better to their history when I went to Providence Island, which is the island where we came through via Sierra Leone and into the Providence Island. And I felt moved. I felt moved by a country in terms of what they were able to do to declare their own independence. But I was probably more spiritually moved by Ethiopia because I went to Lalibela. Lalibela moved in two areas. One, from just the innovativeness of Africans to be able to build underground churches, to be able to build churches which go in caves and don't flood. Many years ago, and are still standing today. Now, when they on Christmas Day, which is their Christmas, which is about 6th, 7th of January, and 200,000 pilgrims descend into Lalibela, and you are there at the middle of the night and see the visual, foreigners and locals all there dressed in white. It's just a very spiritually moving place to witness that, how a people with a country and a religion which was not colonized. Because Ethiopia has the story of being the country which was not colonized other than the 4 years of occupation by the Italians. But of course, when I eventually did get into Libya, I was just stunned by Libya because I thought Libya was going to be ruins. I was expecting ruins, expecting buildings all fallen apart. Arrived in Tripoli, and I went outside of Tripoli to see the ruins of the Roman Empire, and they were all there. And I said, my goodness, these ruins have been here for thousands of years and they're still standing. I never expected that. Then I move around the city of Tripoli and I see some of the buildings that they had. Of course, the one thing that surprised me was for all the money that the Libyans made, for all the support that Gaddafi gave to Africans from a religion and from Islam. I was expecting grand mosques in Libya, and I didn't see no grand mosque. The only grand mosque was the one which used to be a church, a Christian church, which they took over and they converted to mosque. Otherwise, the mosques, because in Libya, the mosques are built by people. So the communities themselves are raising money and building mosques. So that's a good story in itself. But I was expecting seeing that moving around the whole continent. I saw in the Islamic countries of Africa that many of the mosques were built by Gaddafi, and they are grand. You go to Niger, they got grand mosques, and I was expecting that in Libya I'll see that. I didn't see that. But the resilience of the people in Libya is just incredible. So I was there about a week or two before they bombed the airport, and the airport that they bombed was an interim one after they bombed the previous one. But what surprised me perhaps more than any place must be Mogadishu. Because now, like Libya, all we read about these countries is what? Guns, ruins, blasts, poverty, people are fleeing. And here I am in Mogadishu. Yes, on the left-hand side is ruins, on the right-hand side is beautiful buildings which are going up. So I say to the people, I don't understand this dichotomy. On the left-hand side is buildings which have been brought down. On the right-hand side is beautiful buildings rising up. He says that's how we do it here in Mogadishu, in Somalia. When they destroy what we've built, we rebuild it right next to them better and faster. But you know, 95% of the people in Somalia use EVC, mobile money transfer. Now you wouldn't expect that. You'd expect a country like that should be absolutely far from technology because nothing should be standing. But the resilience, the innovation, and the enterprising nature of the Somalis stands.
Through his engaging social media pages, he takes thousands of people along with him, and he shares his experiences and highlights the diversity and similarity that makes us all African.
Many years ago, I did an interview with the CEO of Samsung, and asked him, why are you so successful in the continent? Why is Samsung in everybody's hands? He was the CEO for Africa. He said, my friend, because I've been to every African country, I've seen how they eat, I've seen how they live, I've seen how they communicate, and it helped us create the Build for Africa initiative, which enabled us to be able to create products which respond to the needs and which respond to the conditions of the continent. But I left a bit ashamed because here's a Korean, a foreigner who knew the continent better than I did. At the stage, I'd only been to like 15 countries, and I said, I need to get going. I need to understand what this man is talking about. Because, you know, whenever many of us, including us Africans and everybody else, whenever they talk about the continent, they talk about the places they've never been to. That's why, you know, when I was in Switzerland at this at St. Gallen, where I normally go every year, and on the panel there was a short Chinese woman, and she was being interviewed about China, where China is going, and some young guy in the audience got up and said, ma'am, you are sitting there and speaking all these wonderful things about China, but China is suppressing Tibet. They are doing horrible things, and here you come, you want us to respect you. And she allowed him to speak. And when he finished speaking, she asked him a simple question. Have you been to Tibet? And the guy said, no, I haven't. She says, well, I go to Tibet all the time. My family is from Tibet. How awful it is that you are sitting here and making pronouncements about a country and creating perceptions about a country you've never been to. He says, a small advice to you. Don't ever speak about anybody's country until you've been to it. So those combinations of those two experiences, one from a product, marketing, commercial, and one really from a political perspective, really help to not so much say you must travel, but said to us, it was questions to me as an African. Do you know your country, continent better? Do you know other countries? Because, you know, if you look at issues, whether it's issues about xenophobia, whether it is issues about tribalism, about discrimination, about all those are really brought about by the fact that we do not know each other. We don't understand each other. We don't understand our interconnectedness. We don't understand our histories well. So the only way we're going to overcome that is to go back and try and understand each other, get to know each other, meet each other, reconnect with each other. And that way we'll be able to overcome many of these challenges. Because the most important challenge that faces all of us is eradicating poverty, inequality in the continent, ensuring that everybody has got food on their table. There's power to light up the country, but power also to power the entrepreneurial spirit of the continent and the money by investing in made in Africa brands. So that's why the one thing that I always do when I travel the continent, the country, is to try to understand what type of brands are they consuming, where are those brands from, what channels are they watching, what products are they eating, what mobile phones are they using, all those things. And you know, in the survey that I do every year, the Brand Africa 100, Africa's best brands, which I've done for 7 years or so, 83% of the brands that Africans admire are non-African. So Africans reject Africa. So part of how we're going to overcome this is by rebuilding pride in Made in Africa. So my journey across the continent really is a journey of reconnecting with the continent that's created me.
Africa remains a place of interest to tourists within and outside the continent. However, many Africans find it easier to tour countries outside the continent due to visa restrictions.
It takes about 30 or 35 visas to get through the continent. But you know, it's the same challenge for everybody else. So it's part of the fun of traveling the continent, and I really don't think it's been much of a problem. I've gotten visas everywhere I've wanted to go. It's a bit of an irritation that you have to go through it, but it is part of the challenge of traveling. So I've had absolute fun. I've never really looked at it as an issue getting visas. Some have been difficult, some have been easy. You know, with one country took me about, I think, to get to Libya, took a couple of steps to get the visa in Libya. It was first declined, then I had to go through another corridor, then I got it. To go to Equatorial Guinea, it took about 6 weeks to get a visa. But to others like Sudan, took 2 hours. So, and you know, you wouldn't think of Sudan as a place where you will get a visa so easy. And that's during the Bashir era, so it wasn't even now. And that took just 2 hours to get there. Just when I'm coming to Sudan. We have to make it easy for people to travel the continent, because this is a beautiful continent, it's an amazing continent, and as Africans, we really should be moving easier. You know, the people in East Africa have got it right. You know, with the East African passport, also ECOWAS as well. You know, so the two regions, they've gotten it right in terms of the ability to be able to move around. We should make it easy like that. All the 5 regional blocks, they should make it easy for people to travel the regions. But most importantly, the pillars of the economy of the continent, South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, it should be easy to move around those countries. We need to get visas, we need to free up the continent, because as more people travel, the more they get to understand each other, and the more we get to contribute to the growth of the continent.
As someone who's spent an appreciable amount of time in places away from home, we asked Thebe about his rules for traveling.
I'm an Afro-optimist, so I choose to focus on the positive things, but I also choose to focus on the wars. People say, wars? I say, yes, there's massive wars in this continent. There's a war between Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, and Gambia as to who makes the best jollof. and I was in Gambia, I was talking to this magnificent Lady Ida. And Lady Ida, you know, Gambia is a very small part of just next to Senegal. And I said, oh, Mama Ida, you know, these people here are complaining. They say they make the best jollof in Nigeria or in Senegal. Mama Ida says, but I won the best jollof rice competition in the world. And she won the competition, and she dropped the mic on all of them. And she reminded me, don't forget jollof from Wolof right here. So I said, she's right. They should make the best jollof. Of course, there's many other wars, right? There's wars between gorillas from Rwanda, Uganda, Congo, the silverbacks. Who's got the most? Been to all of them. Every country I go to, I tell them, you've got the most. Not that yours are the best. You've got the biggest silverbacks, they're the most vicious looking, but all of them are amazing. So, the thing about us Africans is what? We eat, we sing, we are welcoming. So, and we dress well. It's a country, 1.2 billion people, beaming with entrepreneurial energy. 70% of the continent is under the age of 30. They are not burdened by the past. They are only empowered by the possibilities of the future. This continent is vibrant. It is viable. The continent holistically is what inspired who we are and what's going to inspire what we can be as a continent. Every one of us does something different, and so whether it's my own country, South Africa, or all the way to Tunisia, which is the furthest north part of the continent, whether it is the furthest west part of the continent in Senegal, or on the right-hand side, Somalia or Central African Republic, every single one of them, I found something interesting in all of those. And I've chosen, when I travel, never ever to do research about the country, mostly never ever to take my country with when I travel. Because when you take your country with, you leave with a baggage. So I've arrived at every country and looked at it as a clean canvas, and rather painted a new experience and left with that experience as perfect.